Before I begin this video, I would like to say please leave a like down below and leave any comments for any questions or future video ideas you have. And also, if you like my channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more Scratch content and other sorts of video content. Alright, let's begin with this project. In today's video, we will be making a classic Tic Tac Toe game where there are two players, X and O, and they take turns making moves until either one of them gets a connect 3, which is 3 in a row, either horizontal, vertical, or diagonal, or like the board fills up and it's a draw and no one wins. So just to demonstrate real quick, let's just say I'm X and my opponent's O. So I go first, X goes first, and let's just say I put it right here. So now it's O's turn, and they put it right here. And then I go here, and then O doesn't see that I'm about to get a 3 in a row here, so they accidentally put it here. And then now I can put it there and win. So X wins. And now let's do a scenario where O wins. So X puts it there, O puts it here, X puts it here, O puts it here. X doesn't see that O is going for a vertical 3 in a row, so X just puts it here, and O wins just like that. Now let's try to do a draw. So X puts it there, O puts it here, X puts it here, then O puts it here, X puts it here, O puts it here, X puts it here, and then O puts it right there, and then X puts it right there. So that's a draw. Okay, let's get started in making this project. So at the beginning, of course, we're going to go ahead and create a new project. And you can see I already done that. And also I deleted the Scratch Cat because in today's project, we will be using our own sprites. So first off, we want to create our box, right? So each box is in the 3x3 grid, so we have to create 9 boxes in total. But instead of creating 9 sprites, what we can do is create one sprite and then copy that same sprite onto a 3x3 grid. So just copy that sprite 9 times. So first we want to design our tic-tac-toe square. So let's just make it gray and with a black edge. So I'm just gonna pick a shade of gray, maybe that shade. And then you can hold down shift and just drag tiny square like that. Any size is fine, like depends if you want your tic-tac-toe board or grid to be bigger or smaller. So I'm just gonna put it right here. So what we want to do is we want to copy it and then make it go this way and then this way, and then once there's 3 in one row, we go to the next row. So we just need some simple code for that. I'm just going to call this a blank square for now because we're going to need to add more costumes later on. So I just made a blank square like this. So we're going to go to the code. We want to add when green flag clicked, of course. When green flag clicked, we want to hide the sprite, the original sprite, and then we want to make 9 copies of it. So repeat 9, and then go to control and create a clone of myself. So that'll create 9 clones, as you can see, but you can't see it because we didn't show the clone. So let's just drag a when I start as a clone block into our workspace, and then we can drag a show block right there. So now it should show. So they're all stacked on top of each other. So we have to move them to the left and into a grid-like position. To do that, we're going to have to make 2 new variables called block X and block Y. And make sure for this sprite only is ticked. Oh, actually, no. Let's do it for all sprites. That's fine. You don't have to do for this sprite only. And then we're also going to create another variable called ID. So we can keep track of each block. And this one you have to tick it for this sprite only because without that, ID won't change for each sprite. So now, when we create our clone of myself, we want it to change the ID by 1 every time. So each block will have a different ID. And let's just set our variables first. So set block X to -46, or wherever your original sprite is. You can see here mine is in position X, -46, and set block Y to the Y value. In this case, mine is 57. And then set ID to 1 because we want to start with 1. ID always starts with 1. So create a clone of myself, and then we have to change ID by 1. So now you can see they're all still stacked on top of each other, but each sprite or each clone has a different ID. Now we have to change the block X and block Y. So that's going to act as our position for each clone. In our clone script, we want to put a goto block. And then instead of go to X -46, Y 57, we want to go to X block X and then Y block Y. So go to X block X and Y block Y. Now we want to change the block X and the block Y accordingly. We have to check using the if command. So if block X, I'm going to put greater than, or if block X is less than. We're going to actually need a if else because we need to change the block Y if the block X has already reached the maximum. So if block X is less than, I'm just going to enter a random value for now because I don't know the size of the square. So I don't know how long each row is going to be. So that has to be tested and we have to do trial and error. So I'm just going to enter 30 for now. And you have to like guess and check and test it. And also have to guess the size of the block. I'd say around 20 studs. So looks like that's not enough. How about we raise it to 50? Let's see the spacing of that. Yeah, look, that looks like good spacing. No, actually, how about 40? 40 looks a bit, let me see if it's overlapped or is it just right on the edge. So I think about 42. Yeah, 42 looks good for my case. It depends on the size of your square. You're just going to have to test until you see that the edges align perfectly. Or if you don't want them to align perfectly, that's fine. So now it's 42. We want to do some quick math. If we start at -46 and then we add 42 each time. So this is -46 and then this will be -46 plus 42, which would be -4, and then the next one would be 38. So you want it to say if X is less than 39 because there we go. So if block X is less than 39, then we want it to we want to change the X. Otherwise, we want to change the Y. So since this is a square, we can change the Y by the same amount we change the X because the sides are the same. So now if we change block Y by 42 as well, it should give us, oh, okay, so it's not giving us a grid. Oh, we have to change block Y by negative because we're going downwards. So that should look, we have to set the block X. So once it's that way, we have to set the block X back to its original -46 because we want to place one here, one here, one here, and then the next one should go right here, not right here. So now we try that. Oh, that's not a 3x3 grid. Oh, so maybe we have to, instead of changing this to -46, we can change that to -46 plus 42. So that'd be 4. So if I change that to 4, that doesn't look right. Change that to 3. You might have to try a little bit with this one. -10. Okay, that's too much. So -6, -3. Okay, that's too less. -4. Yeah, okay, so -4 looks like it's a good value to me. So now that's taken care of. We can go ahead and start programming the click. So when the player clicks a square, it should change costume. First off, we have to create costumes. Let's just duplicate this one. And I'm going to put a red X in the middle. So you can click text, change that color to red, and then just put an X. And then reposition that to the center, like so. And then I'll duplicate that again. And instead of X, we're going to put an O. And we're going to change that color to yellow. Like that color. That's a good color. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that right in the center. So now that we have our X and O's, we have to name them as well. So O and X. Now we have both of our costumes. We can say, so when I start as a clone, we position ourselves, and then we're going to have to wait until it's clicked. So go to control, and there should be a wait until block right here. Wait until, since we can't do events because this is a clone, we have to say wait until touching mouse and mouse down. So if it's touching the mouse and the mouse is down, then we count that as a click. Go to operators, and we have to find the AND operator so we can join mouse down and touching mouse pointer. So drag touching mouse pointer, and then drag mouse down. Where's mouse down? Mouse down right here. So drag mouse down here. So what this does is it waits until both of these conditions are satisfied. So basically, it waits until the clone is clicked, and when it's clicked, let's check one more time just in case. So when the clone is clicked, then what we want to do is we want to switch costume to, let's just say, X for now. We'll do O later, so let's do X for now. Just to test this. Okay, so at the beginning we have to switch to blank because at the beginning everything should be blank, and then when we click, it should be X, and then if we keep clicking, nothing happens. So if I click that square, you can see they all become X's. Oh, I'm not in full screen, so it allows dragging. So you can see if I click the square, it becomes an X. Now we have to do the O. We're going to have to create a variable called turn to keep track of whose turn it is. So at the beginning of the program, we have to set turn to X because X goes first. And then once X makes his or her move, then we have to switch turn to O. So we're just going to do a simple if-else statement underneath this if statement. So if turn equals to X, so if turn equals to X, make sure it's capital, then switch costume to X. And then we have to set the turn to O. So set turn to O. Else, then we want to switch costume to O since it's O's turn, and then change turn to X. So now if we test this, I'm just going to click the green flag. You can see it's X's turn. Now the turn switches to O. So when I click, it should be an O, and then X, O, X, O, X, O. Now we have to make a list. So a list is basically a group of elements where you can keep track of a variety of items. So to make a list, you just click this make a list button down here and let's name our list group. So what grid is for is we have to calculate, like, if one player gets 3 in a row, or like diagonal 3 in a row, vertical 3 in a row. So that all has to be calculated. So we're going to use a grid to keep track of each square and what is in each square. Is it empty? Is it an X? Is it an O? We have to get all of that. And that's also the purpose of ID, to keep track of each square. At the beginning, we have to add nothing to grid. We have to add nothing to grid. So that's just a blank square. And also at the beginning, we have to make sure you delete all of grid because we want to reset the grid every time. So now you can see our grid consists of 9 items. And what my algorithm is each of these squares are designated a number. So this square is designated 1, so it matches with that. 2, this is 3, and then 4 is here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that represents each item in the grid list. Now, when we are switching our costumes, we want to say replace item ID, because we want to get the ID of the clone with X. So if it's, let's just say I click this square, the ID is 1. So it will replace the item 1 in this list with X. And we have to do the same with O, except instead of replacing item ID with X, we replace it with O. I'm just going to change that to O. So now, if we try that, at the beginning, grid is empty. Let's try clicking on the first square and see what happens. So when I click it, an X gets filled in right here. And also, in our grid list, an X is put on the first element. So let's try clicking another part, like the center. If we count, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 should become an O. I'm just going to click it. And as you can see, when I click on this square, 5 becomes an O. Now that we know that our grid works, we have to use algorithms and some way to detect 3 in a row. To do that, we're going to have to use something called functions. What functions are is, it's basically a list of steps. Just think about it like a coffee machine. Let's just say you want to make coffee. You can make decaf, you can make espresso, or you can make just regular plain coffee. And also you have 3 other selections, let's just say small, medium, and large. So let's just say I want to make a small normal coffee. Then I would enter small, and then I would enter normal coffee, and then I would press start. And then the machine would make a small normal coffee for me. That's just like a function. You can pass in different values, and using that, you can put it into a step-by-step instructions of what to do with these values you put in. So what are we going to use functions for in this project? We're going to use functions to check for 3 in a row rows, 3 in a row columns, and 3 in a row diagonals. Let's first check for rows. So what we're going to do is make a block, click on make a block by going to my blocks, and then just call this rows. And we want a number value because we want to check each row. So row 1, row 4, or row 7. Because, let's just see. Let me just give a demonstration real quick. You can see that the first row is this one. The values in this row are 1, 2, 3. So we call this row 1. The next row starts at 4. This 4 spot is right here. So this is called row 4. And then the final row is row 7. So let's go ahead and create a block called rows. So just go to make a block, call this rows, and then simply click on add an input and call that number and press OK. So now we have to define rows. How do we check for rows? What are the list of instructions we're going to put underneath this function? So if we look at our grid right here, you'll notice that for it to connect 3, grid 1, grid 2, and grid 3 must be the same. So if it's like this, then that doesn't work because grid 1 is X, grid 2 is X, these two match, but the third one isn't X. For it to be 3 in a row, all of them have to match. All of them can't be empty, and all of them have to be all X's or all O's. So we can simply check for that by going like this, go down to define rows. I'm just going to zoom in real quick. And you can see here. How we're going to check this is we're going to drag an if statement, and then we're going to say if, and then drag an and then drag another and, because we have to check 3 times. We have to check grid 1, grid 2, and grid 3. Well, not necessarily. Like, it could be checking grid 4, 5, and 6, and so on. So we're going to say if put it equals, and then go down to variables, and then drag item. So if item number of grid equals to, and then you can copy that, duplicate it, and then drag it right here. And then if item number of grid equals to item number plus 1. So we're checking if the item number of grid equals to the item number of grid plus 1. So in this case, if number was 1, right, we're checking row 1, then if item 1 of grid, which is this one, 1, if whatever is in there equals to whatever is in this plus 1, which is 2, so we're checking that. And we're going to duplicate this whole thing. And if item number plus 1, I'm just going to throw that out here and duplicate this, equals to item number plus 2. So we're checking if they're all equal, basically. If item of number of grid equals to the next number, and if the next number equals to the next number, then we know they're all equal. And finally, in the last and, we have to check if they're not empty. So we already know they're all equal to each other. Now we have to check if they're all not empty. So and then drag a not, and then drag it equals, go to variables, and then item, drag item, and item, I'm going to duplicate number, and item, and not item number of grid equals to nothing. So we're checking if it equals to something, because if item number of grid is nothing, then we know item number of grid plus 1 also equals to nothing, item number of grid plus 2 also equals to nothing, because they're all equal. We know that already. So if they're all empty, then that's not a connect 3. And then in the next one, all we're going to do is we're going to create a new variable called wins. So we're checking who wins. Make sure that's a global variable, so for all sprites, not just for this sprite. If that's the case, then we're going to set wins to item number of grid. So if item number of grid is X, then X wins, because they got to connect 3. If item number of grid is O, then O wins. So now we have our rows number down. We can test this. And also make sure you set wins to nothing at the beginning. Just write somewhere here, like set wins to nothing, so that in the start, no one wins. And now if we test this, let's try getting a 3 in a row. Oh wait, we haven't checked, we haven't used this variable or this function yet. We have to put that right underneath this if command, because once they make their move, we want to check for if they got to connect. So check for rows. See, you can go to my blocks, and now you can see you have this rows function. So we're going to check for rows 1, we're going to check for rows 4, and we're going to check for rows 7. And as you can see, that's really easy, because all we have to do is say check for rows 1, check for rows 4, and check for rows 7, and it'll check all those rows automatically for us without having to copy paste this 3 times. So now let's try that. And I'm going to try to get a connect 3 right there, right there. And as you can see, it says wins equals to X. but we haven't set anything. What happens if wins equals to X? We have to make sure that we check that as well. So wins equals to X. And then once someone wins, we're going to broadcast a message. And if you don't know what broadcast is, we actually did that in, I think it was episode 4, I think. We started doing broadcast. Basically, if you don't know what broadcast is, you can broadcast a global message. And after you broadcast that, you can use this block right here called when I receive message. And then you basically run whatever's there. So we're going to broadcast wins, so we already know who the winner is. And then after that, we're going to say when I receive wins. So when wins is broadcasted, then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new backdrop called, let's just say, okay, so this is our game backdrop. So this is what happens during the game. I'm just going to paint that blue. Maybe that shade of blue. That's good. I'm just going to make a blue background. And then if X wins, I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to say X, right? And then I'm going to say, change that to red. I'm just going to simply type X wins, like that. So X wins. Drag that a bit bigger and center that. So that's what happens when X wins. So now, let's make this O wins. So this is when, this screen will show when O wins. I'm going to make that the same color as O, which is, I think it was, yeah, it was that color. So this screen will show when X wins, and this screen will show when O wins. Oh, make sure you change that to O. And this screen is during the game, like it's just a backdrop. So go back to sprite. And at the beginning, we have to make sure we switch to the game screen because we don't want it to switch to like O wins or X wins automatically. So switch to game screen. Now if we try this, you can see X, X, X. Okay, X wins. And the turn is O. Now, underneath this when I receive wins, we have to set it to, we have to switch the backdrop. Switch backdrop to go to variables to wins. So switch backdrop to wins. And then we want to hide the grid because we don't want the grid to be showing. Let's see. Hide. Yeah. Just like that. So now when I receive wins, we're going to make, okay, after this, just wait until, like when I start as a clone, at the end, just put wait until equals to, and then wait until wins equals to nothing, and then drag a not. So wait until the wins does not equal to nothing. So we can basically detect when someone wins, then we want to hide all of our grid. So just go like that. Now if we try this, see here, so X, X, X. Oh, not all of them hid. Right over here. Okay. I'm just gonna drag that out. Oh, okay, so basically once someone wins, a simple thing we can do is just stop the whole script. So go to control and then just put stop all. And now that should work. Let me just go in full screen and then X, X, X. There we go. Now you can see X wins. And yeah, so if you want to delete all of these like variables in the grid, you can just go to variables and then uncheck all of these so they don't show. And now we have to check for columns. So we're going to do the same thing, right? We're going to create a new block called columns. And then add an input called number. So we're going to check for the column number. Now let's look at the grid, okay? So this is 1, right? This is 1. And then this is this is 4, and this is 7. So we have to check, if you look at 1, 4, 7, you can see that they're all spaced 3 apart. So all we need to do is copy the exact same thing we did for rows, but instead of item number of grid equals to item number of grid plus 1, we want it to plus 3, like that. So if number is 1, then item 1, item 4, and then if item 4 equals to item 6 plus 6, like that. And that's about it. So that's all we need to check. And we have our columns done. But instead of check columns 1, 4, 7, we have to check columns 1, 2, 3, because the start of this column is 1, so 1, 4, 7, and then 2, 5, 8, and then 3, 6, 9. So simple as this, we can just drag 3 columns here. We're going to check for columns 1, columns 2, and columns 3. So we've got our rows, we've got our columns, right? Now we just have to check for diagonals. If you look at the board, the only 2 diagonals possible is this one, right here, and then the other one is this one. So that's simple. You don't need a function for that. We can just put 2 if commands. So if item 1, item 5, and item 9 equals to each other, or item 3, item 5, and item 7 equal to each other. Like if either of those are true, then we can just broadcast win. I'm just going to make a pretty long if command right here. We're going to drag 2 ands inside this if command. And what this is going to do is we're basically checking for this diagonal this way. So that's slot 1, slot 5, slot 9. So we have to check if slot 1 equals to slot 5 and if slot 5 equals to slot 9. So we're going to drag equals to, and then inside the first slot of the equals to, we're going to put item 1, and then we have to check if that's equal to item 5. And then thereon we have to check if item 5, hold on, we have to drag another equals right here. Then we have to check if item 5 equals to item 9. And then the last slot, we're going to check if item 1 has something in it. Because if item 1 doesn't have anything in it, then we know that all of the things we just checked are empty. And empty doesn't count as a 3 in a row. So, and not, and I'm just going to copy this item 1 over here. And not item 1 equals to empty. So we're making sure there's something in item 1. So if this is satisfied, then we can just go up here and copy whatever's here. Set wins to number item of grid, but instead of item, we're just going to put item 1. So drag that over here. Just delete that number, drag it down here. And as you can see, set wins to item 1 of grid, and then broadcast wins. Now we have to do the exact same thing for the other diagonal, which is 3, 5, and 7. So we can just right click on this if, press duplicate, drag that underneath, and then instead of this being 1, we have to change that to 3, and then 5 stays the same, then this 5 also stays the same, and this one changes to a 7, and then this one changes to a 3. And then over here, this one changes to a 3. So that's basically it. Let's go ahead and test the final product. I'm just going to hit green flag, and let's just say X starts here. Okay, X starts here. And maybe O goes right here. Claiming the center, X goes right there. And then O goes here. Oops, X wins because they got a 3 in a row. Now let's try if O wins. So X goes here, O goes here, X goes here, O goes here, X maybe goes here, and then O goes here. X goes there, and then O wins. Just like that. So now let's try diagonal wins. So, one here, and X wins. See, you can see that's diagonal. The only one thing we didn't do yet is when the board fills up, and that's actually pretty simple. So, we're just going to add another if at the end of this. So, we're going to say if if grid contains, so we have to check if the grid does not contain any blank spaces. So if not, grid contains that, like nothing, then we're going to set wins. I'm just going to duplicate it, put it right here. Instead of item 3 of grid, we just put set wins to draw. Okay, and also go to backdrop because we didn't design a draw screen yet. So we can duplicate one of these. And then instead of O wins, I'm just going to call that draw. And move that to the center. Maybe make it a light gray, like that, right there. And then make sure you name this backdrop to draw. Or whatever you put in here. Whatever you put inside here. So now if we try to draw the game, let's just say X puts it here. O blocks the center, X goes here, O goes up, X goes down, O goes right, and then X goes down, O blocks, and then X goes here. You can see it's a draw. Alright, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe. Leave any comments if you have any questions or future video ideas, and also please subscribe and hit the notification bell if you like my content and want more Scratch content and other video ideas. Thank you for watching. Peace out.